Hello guys, it's Alex here again and welcome to another course where we'll be looking at blend modes in Photoshop. Blend mode is an important feature in Photoshop that you get to use all the time along your journey as a graphic designer. And in a nutshell, blend modes help you control how you mix colors between two layers. Or you can say blend modes control how colors mix between two layers. Let me give you an instance of what I mean. Let's open up our Photoshop and import some images. Now I'm dragging and I'm dropping an image here in Photoshop. Now we have this image, right, in a layer. Now let me import a texture. Let me import this texture. And click enter. So right now I have imported two images into Photoshop. The first one is, let me switch off the visibility of this first one so you can see what's below. The first one is this image of three young people, and the second image is just a texture background. Okay, so let's say I want to merge or want to blend these two layers together, or I want to mix the colors between these two layers together. The best I could do is to go to opacity and reduce the opacity of the top layer. You see, as I reduce the opacity, now I can see what is below the layer. All right, that's the best way I can mix these two layers together. That is, without the blend modes, this is the best way I can mix these two layers together. But somehow, look at this. This doesn't look right. Okay, it still looks obvious, like there is a layer on top of the other layer, as in it still looks like there are two layers together, like there is one layer on top of the other, and so it doesn't look real, or it doesn't look like it's one image. It still looks like they are separate images. Now this is where blend modes come in. Blend modes helps us to mix two layers together, and it will end up looking like it's one image. Now let us bring this opacity back to 100%. Now we are back at 100. Now we can't see what is below this layer, right? We are seeing just the top layer. So what we have to do now is to go over to this place. This is the blend mode here. You see the normal here. We are currently at the normal blend mode. So once you click on this, you see other blend modes. All right. Then if you take a close look at the blend modes, you see that there are lines that are dividing the blend modes. You see this line here, see another line here, see another line here, see another line here, see another line here. So these lines are showing the several groups of the blend modes. All right, so let's quickly go out of here and check out the blend mode groups. So this simply helps us label the blend modes. The two top modes are called normal modes. Then the second group is the darken group. The third one is the lighting. Then the fourth one is the contrast group. The fourth one, or the fifth one, is the inversion or cancellation. Then the sixth one is the component group. So now we are back to Photoshop, and let me highlight this so that we can check out the blend modes. Now it's important we understand what happens or what goes on in each of these groups. When we understand how each of these group works, then it's easy for us to know what to apply and when to apply them. Understanding the groups is better than trying to cram or trying to memorize what each of the single modes how they affect layers. So here is the normal group. The group below it, which starts with darken, is the darken group. Then the next group is the lighting group. And the third one is the contrast group. Now, looking at all these groups, it's easier for you to remember the blend modes by their groups than by trying to memorize what each of the modes in the several groups do to pictures or do to layers. And that is number one. And the second way you can actually get to know the blend mode for you to use is just for you to hover on it. Like, for example, that's what we do right now. Just hover on each of the modes and see how it interacts or affects the layer beneath it. That way you can quickly look at it and know the one that fits what you want to achieve. So you don't really have to memorize any of the modes. But as you grow as a graphic designer, or as you grow in design, once you keep using several of these blend modes, you quickly or you easily know the blend modes you use per time that will give you a desired outcome or effect. So why I'm telling you all these things is so that you don't get to kill yourself or get to stress yourself about memorizing the blend modes and what they all do. So now we are at the normal, right? So let's choose the dissolve. Now dissolve is almost like the normal, but it doesn't outrightly affect the layer beneath it. For you to see the effect of the dissolve on the dissolve mode, what you have to do is to lower the opacity of that layer. Now check this out. When we were in the normal mode, let's reduce the opacity. As we reduce the opacity, we just see the layer beneath, right? But then let's change this to dissolve. Now we are in the dissolve mode. Let's reduce the opacity. And as you begin to notice that the opacity is, as we reduce the opacity, you see that this layer begins to disappear with tiny dots, leaving tiny dots behind, right? So this is where we notice the effect of the dissolve mode. So now let's head over to the darken group. You see what it does to our texture. Here is the multiply. Now under the multiply mode, if you look at the pictures we have, you can see the texture appear in the image below. Under the multiply mode, the two layers are looking like they are infused together. It's looking like it's one image. You can see the texture appear nicely on the other layer. The white part disappears and now we have only the textures appear on the image. So this has just added a pretty nice effect on the image layer. As you scroll down, we keep seeing how each of these modes affect those two layers. Now this is the lighting mode. You see how each of these modes in the contrast group affect the two layers or the images in the two layers. Simply, when you want to apply the blend modes, all you have to do is to hover on any of the blend modes to see the one that gives you the desired effect you need. Then once you get it, you just click on it and that's it. So we use the blend modes to apply special effects on our designs by mixing two layers together. So it's as simple as that. So beyond using textured image, let's try using colors. So let me drag this and delete this layer. Let me go to the rectangular tool or rectangle tool and draw a rectangle over this. Let me choose, now I'm in the color picker tool. Let me choose a purple. Okay, let me choose a red color and click OK. So right now we have a color over our image layer. Let's use the color mode to try to blend the layer that has the color with the layer that has our image and see how it turns out. So you see what the darken mode multiply, color burn, you see how it affects. So you see how each of these modes mix up these two layers together. So these are really, really, really cool. You see how we use the blend modes to apply nice effects on. So you see how we use the blend modes to apply nice effects on our designs. I think I like this. So this looks beautiful. So let's delete this layer that contains the rectangle and try using a gradient instead. Let's open a new layer. Then the gradient we used in the previous video. Now I've chosen the preset. Remember, we'll save the preset in the previous video. Now click OK. Then now I draw. If you notice, even with our gradient being applied, we are seeing what is behind the gradient layer even while we are in the normal mode. Yeah, this is because our gradient at the top here, our gradient is set at 66% opacity, so we can increase it to 100 and reapply. So now we have 100% opacity. Now we can't see what is below the gradient layer anymore. So we can come over right here to the layer and choose any of the modes. And you see how the kind of effect it gives to our image below the layer. So you see how cool these things are. So that's all about that for blend modes. We use blend modes to add nice effects to our designs by trying to mix two layers together. So going forward, we'll be using the blend modes a lot throughout our designs. Let's delete this layer. Beyond using colors and gradients over the image layer, we can also use text. So let me type in Christmas. Just because we're in the Christmas season, let me expand this. Christmas. And click enter, and let me turn this to, let me give this a color. Let me go to the property panel and give this the color, the red color. Yeah, I think red is perfect. No, this time around let me try blue. We've used red before. Now let me try using blue. I think that's okay. So I head over to, once we have our text layer highlighted, I get over to the blend modes and try going through either of the modes and see the effect it gives to our image below, or see the effects it brings out. So you see what is going on right here. You see how each of these modes are mixing up these two layers, the text layer and the image layers together to give us nice effects. So this is pretty amazing. Let me leave it at this, but let me change the color of that blue and choose Let me make sure the text layer is highlighted. So let me choose the color on this background here, one of the colors here. So instead of me choosing the color from these sliders, all I have to do is to move my hand, my cursor, or move. All I have to do is to go to the color I want to sample here. So you see my cursor has changed to the sign of an eyedropper tool. Now, if I click on this part, the color here instantly gets sampled on the color picker tool. So once I click here, I instantly get that color. You see, I get the color here. So this is one of the techniques we use in sampling colors from images. So now that blue I used initially looked off somehow. So I decided to get color that I'll use for the Christmas from the image or from one of the colors on the image. Okay, so I'm sampling now the colors I'm seeing here, and I'm getting a live preview of how it looks like. You see, once I click on this one, you see the color of the text changes. Once I click on this color here, the color of the text changes as well. And once I click on this color, the color of the text changes. So this is one of the ways you sample color and decide on the colors you want to use. Let me sample the color on this cup here. See how the color has changed. Let me sample the color from the leg of the lady. So eventually I'm sticking with the color here, this color here, and I'm clicking OK. So I'm happy with this. So you see how I've used the blend modes to create a nice effect between the text layer and the image layer. So that's that for this short course. This is just an introduction to blend modes and show you how important it is in Photoshop and how we use blend modes to create nice effects by mixing two layers together by choosing any of the modes until we achieve a desired outcome. So that's that for this course. See you in the next course.